Hello, ladies and gentlemen. For today, we are going to start Unit 3, Linear Equations, and our first lesson is on one-step equations. Today's learning goal is that equations can be solved using opposite operations, more on that in a second, and our success criteria is to solve one-step equations. So, two things that we are going to discuss before getting into it. We're going to talk about what are opposite operations, and then we're going to talk about what it means to solve an equation. To begin, we'll consider our four main operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And when I talk about opposite operations, I mean the operation that will undo something. So, if we are adding, the opposite of adding is to subtract. If we are subtracting, the opposite is adding. If we are multiplying, the opposite is to divide. And if we are dividing, the opposite is to multiply. So we're going to be using these opposite operations, so operations that will undo one another, in order to work with our one-step equations. And the other topic that I want to quickly address is this notion of solving. So if I ask you to solve, what I'm actually trying to get you to do is to find an unknown number. Alright, so that's the introduction to these ideas. We're going to go through 4 examples of how we solve equations using opposite operations. So I'm going to suggest that at this time you pause the video and record this information before we move on. Alright, so our first example, we are going to be looking at x plus 3 is equal to 10. And we're going to solve by using opposite operations. So to start, we have to identify where our x is, and our x would be found right there. Our goal is to take anything that is not an x and move it to the other side of the equation. And we do this by using opposite operations. So right now we have plus 3. Well, the opposite of adding is subtracting. So we're going to subtract 3. And if we do this on one side of the equation, we have to do it on the other side as well in order for the equation to be balanced. So when we subtract 3 from one side, that will cancel. On the other side, we'll have 10 subtract 3, which gives us an answer of 7. So we can say that x is equal to 7. And that will be our final answer. So that's how we end off our question. As you can see, all you have to be able to do is identify what needs to move and then use the opposite operation to move it. We're going to continue and we're going to look at 3 more examples. This was our example using addition. Next, we're going to have an example that starts off using subtraction. So we'll consider our second example. Let's say we have x take away 5 is equal to 2. So we start off by finding x. Well, x is right here. Next, we look at what's on the same side as x. We have minus 5. And we consider our sign. Here it's subtracting. So the opposite of subtracting is adding. So we have to add 5, and we have to add 5 on the other side. Adding 5 cancels out because minus 5 plus 5 is 0, leaving us with an answer of x is going to be equal to 2 plus 5, which is 7. So there we are, our answer for our second question. As you can see, in both our first example and the second example, we are using the same number, but we are using the opposite operation. So plus 5 and minus 5 in order to cancel out. We're going to now take a look at multiplying and dividing. So our third example, let's multiply x by 4. So 4 times x is going to be equal to 24. We start by finding x, well it's right there, and the number that we need to address here is 4. Now 4 right beside an x means that they are being multiplied. The opposite operation to multiplying is dividing, so we're going to divide both sides. The number we use is the number that is being multiplied, so we're multiplying by 4, that means we're going to divide by 4 on both sides. When you divide by 4, you cancel out the 4's because 4 divided by 4 is 1. That leaves us with our x. On the other side of the equal sign, 24 divided by 4 gives us 6. So there is our answer found by using the opposite operation to multiplying. In other words, you undo multiplying by dividing. We'll take a look at one more example, and that will be it for today. So our last example will be x being divided by 2 is equal to 6. So, just as before, start by finding your x. Well, there it is. And we look at what we're doing. We are dividing by 2. Well, if you want to do the opposite of dividing, you multiply. So, we're going to multiply by 2, and we're going to multiply by 2 on the other side. If you multiply by 2 and divide by 2, you're going to cancel out your 2's, leaving you with just an x. And on the other side, 6 times 2 is 12. And there we have our final answer. So in all 4 cases, you have to find the operation being used, which is going to be adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. You will then do the opposite operation. So if you're adding, you will subtract. If you're subtracting, you will add. If you're multiplying, you will divide. And if you're dividing, you will multiply. In every case, that will allow you to cancel out the number on the same side as x, and then you have to solve your answer on the other side of the equal sign. That's it for today. So now that you've finished this video, you're going to want to take a look at the practice work for today, make sure that you get that all completed, and check the course calendar for when the next lesson will be posted. Alright, have a good day everyone. Bye for now.